Hi, this is Shadi, and today we will discuss one of the best ground masters of the 20th century, one that helped establish the roots for what we now call Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, one of the lesser known Japanese masters and judokas, Takeo Yano. I've mentioned Takeo Yano, many mention him, but there's just so many little known about him. But the fact that he was a great ground master, challenging the Gracies, and also being a heel hook master. So he is the one that has taught the heel hook, which is the kata ashihishigi, or a variation of the kata ashihishigi, to people like Carlson Gracie and also Ivan Gomez. So this video I'm gonna go through his life, particularly his challenges and his bouts and his career in Brazil, because his contribution to Jiu-Jitsu is vast. We often talk about Omori mainly and Maeda, but Takeo Yano should be one of the main pillars that has helped Jiu-Jitsu basically thrive in Brazil. So I've been meaning to do a video about Takeo Yano for a very long time, but there wasn't just sufficient amount of information available, or it was mainly in Portuguese, so I had a very tough time, first of all, collecting, because I don't know where to start when the information is just in another language. But eventually I came across this very reliable source that I've been using for a very long time, and that source is none other than Josh Simon, the sponsor of this video. Josh Simon is a certified professor and also black belt, second degree under Carlson Gracie himself. He is currently a teacher and professor at the Gracie, Ohio in the US, with a passion for history. So Josh Simon has a shop on his website for all things related to historical figures like Jacinto Ferro, Geo Omori, and of course Donato Pires. So if you go to his shop, and he is currently only distributing in the US, so I'm sure with enough demand he will broaden his horizon and basically deliver outside of the US. But since this is a beginning, please, I encourage you and urge you all to go to the website in the description, simonbjj.com, not only for these historical t-shirts, but also basically easily digestible and well written BJJ history articles that I myself rely on for these presentations and also for personal education. So back to the video. So Takeo Yano, like I said, he was not much known, but it was believed that he arrived into Brazil around the year 1934, because at that time the older generation Japanese like Maeda and Omori were already starting to get a little old. So he was like a fresh new pump of Japanese blood into the Jiu-Jitsu scene of Brazil. So it was believed that he was born around the year 1909. He trained in Kyoto at the Dai Nippon Butoku Kai. So that tells you one thing, that he was a ground master. We all know that Kyoto, particularly the Dai Nippon Butoku Kai, I've talked about this numerous times. It was mainly Neiwaza oriented, spearheaded by people like Keiichiro Samura and Hajime Isogai. So particularly his teacher was Hajime Isogai, the head instructor at Kyoto Academies. So that can tell you a lot of why also the Brazilians favored the ground a lot, or a lot of the fights had to end on the ground, and also the leg locking, like the heel hook. So upon arriving in Brazil, he already immediately connected with the Japanese communities, people like Gyoji Omori, and started teaching judo at the Club Naval in São Paulo, Brazil. And also later on he went on to teach at the Flamengo Sports Club in Rio de Janeiro. So he began to develop a relationship with the Brazilian Navy. I believe I've talked about San Potoku, who also had like a relationship with the Brazilian Navy, also defeated 15 of them using his judo. I will link his video at the end. So there was like this rivalry between who wants to spearhead the movement of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at that time. There were two sides of this rivalry. The first one being the Brazilian Navy in São Paulo, supported by Takeo Yano and other Japanese judokas. And the other side was like the more high social or like high class, which had a lot of influence, like the president of Brazil, Getúlio Vargas, based in Rio de Janeiro, supported by the Gracie family. So we all know that they had like strong ties with the upper class society at the time. They still do probably. So this led to a lot of matches during the 1930s and 40s between the Gracies and the Japanese fighters, both sides trying to, spearhead jiu-jitsu in Brazil. So the first time this rivalry became official, it was on September 28th, 1935, when Yano fought George Gracie before his split with the family in a sport jiu-jitsu match at the Estádio Brasil. It was powerful social and political forces behind this fight. Like I said, if you have the president and the Gracie family, so it was obviously gonna be a very political oriented match. So the match had a lot of drama to it and a lot of build up, kind of like soccer, in the world of soccer where we see it, or like professional wrestling basically. So Yano was fighting out of the Flamingo club, while George Gracie recently started teaching at the arch rival Fluminense club. So the fight was scheduled to be for 5 rounds of 5 minutes, which is a long time. Yano dominated from the feet, meaning the stand-up, yet time expired without a submission, so it was ruled a draw. So basically, Takeo Yano was very much standing up and doing a lot of nagewaza, while George Gracie implemented that Elio survival tactic on the ground, since their stand-up is not as good as those old judokas. But it was incredibly impressive that for these 5 rounds, Takeo Yano was not able to submit George Gracie, which says a lot about his capability to move, also frame, and basically survive. So the second match with the Gracie family occurred in 1936 against Elio Gracie. So the match consisted of 3 rounds of 20 minutes, so it was an hour match, and it was held at Estádio Brasil. Once again, Yano was being very much dominant in the takedown and the kumikata, but he was unable to submit Elio on the ground. Very much the same thing, so the match was ruled a draw. So just imagine how much cardio these guys had back in the day to play for 60 minutes, resting between rounds at just a few minutes, which is actually unbelievable. So when Henner says, my grandfather's specialty was to survive on the ground, that's actually, he meant it. So the Kimura match was in the 50s, so a lot of these, whether Elio or the Japanese like Kimura, had a long time to develop their skills. But here, I don't know, it seems that Yano was not able to finish them. If you see the photo on the thumbnail, he's wearing a white belt, so he wasn't basically a downgrade judoka. So before you say anything, the man was not even a black belt, but nonetheless he was taking on students and teaching and spreading judo. So that's basically what matters. And also, coming from the Butokukai, I'm sure he had enough ground training for his level. So the third match against the Gracies, Yano, it was a rematch against George Gracie. Yano lost at the 52nd minute. He was choked out. It was actually a no-gi match against George on November 30th, 1936. So he was basically down for playing whatever in order to prove himself. Gi, no-gi, leg locks. He even, like I said, introduced the heel hook to Carlos Gracie. So this is, and Ivan Gomez. So this is a lot of things about this man that are just went unnoticed. His cardio, his endurance, losing at the 52nd minute. So that alone is amazing. So with this rivalry with Carlos and Elio would continue, Takeo Yano and George Gracie would become actually friends, and the two would travel in Brazil competing against each other. So they performed in at least 7 more matches together. So, you know, the old saying goes that you make a lot of friends on the mat after you get choked out. It's true, actually. So George winning his 3rd fight by leg lock, and Yano winning their 4th and 5th match by judges' decision. So many of their remaining fights were draws. May have been works like matches with predetermined outcomes, so like professional wrestling, basically. In addition to his matches with the Gracies, Yano went on against the top wrestlers and strongmen of his era, competing in gi, no gi, and also vale tudo, so basically MMA. So before Ronda Rousey, Caro Parisian, and all these judokas going into MMA, you had Takeo Yano going into vale tudo. So there was a fight that happened on July 10th, 1939 between Takeo Yano and the German wrestler Fritz Weber, I believe I'm pronouncing it right, in Belo Horizonte. The fight was officiated or managed. The referee was Oswaldo Gracie, and in the 5th round, Weber applied a choke to Yano, while Yano applied a footlock to Weber. The German ultimately tapped out to the footlock, but when Oswaldo went to declare Yano the winner, he observed that Yano had been rendered unconscious by the choke. So it was a very controversial match. Someone tapped out, but at the same time the other lost consciousness. So it was declared that both lost and won. So basically it was ruled a draw. It was possible this match was also a work as Yano, or predetermined, because Yano have a special double unconscious bout with George Gracie on March 16, 1940. So we really don't know, but it's controversial for this reason in particular. So Yano accomplished a lot and impacted so much in Brazil for decades. He was very much a competitive fighter throughout the 40s and the 30s, and had matches well into the 1950s. He taught in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and northern Brazil. He was credited as an innovator with fighters such as Ivan Gomes, like I mentioned, and also José Gomes and Carlson Gracie Sênior, acknowledging Takeo Yano introducing the heel hook to Brazil. So there is this myth, not myth, but there is this narrative that Euclides was actually the introducer and Yano took it from him. But I don't believe that this is the case, because if Yano learned it from Euclides and then introduced it to the Brazilian jiu-jitsu scene, it was probable that Hatem already gave it to someone else. So the fact that it came from Yano, first of all, there's no evidence that he learned it from him, and two, many accounts say that it was Yano that actually introduced it. And also the book by Kaweshi, where he mentions the leg lock, specifically the kata ashi shigi, which is an inside heel hook. Now, when it comes to the gripping, hooking the heel, etc., all the gripping details are still being worked till this day. But as you read the remarks, how you pin the knee and finish it by rotating, creating a torsion around the knee, this is basically what a heel hook is trying to do. So, and you see from the photos, it's an inside heel hook. So the earliest forms of heel hook, I believe that it was introduced by this man, Takeo Yano. So I give all the credits to him. So it is believed that he spent his later years, or the remainder of his years, in Belo Horizonte, and died somewhere around the 1980s. So his lineage is actually still living on through the Sá family. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. It's like an A with an apostrophe. Yano taught Francisco Sá for 6 years, who in turn established his own academy, and still managed by his son. The Sá family still continue to have their global affiliation under the name SAS team, and maintain one of the only surviving non-Maeda lineage of BJJ. So if you have anything else to add about this brilliant man, let me know down below. Also, don't forget to check out Josh Simon's shop in the description below for historical t-shirts, or if you want to just have a good read about the history of BJJ, and also consider supporting me on Patreon. I have exclusive content for the patrons only. So if you have anything else to add, let me know down below. This was Shadi, and thank you for listening.